Hello everyone, Amy here. Today I'm sitting down with the lovely Laura Clegg. Laura is one of our UK-based RCPCs, and Laura is today going to share with us a bit about her experience using the RCP personally herself, and then how she went on to take the training later on and what she's doing with that now. So hello Laura.
Hi, how are you?
Great. Thank you for sitting down with us today. So we'll just dive right in. We don't get a lot of time for these chats, Laura. So, tell us how you first came across the RCP, how you came across the work of Morley, and what you did with that. Did you start the RCP for yourself? Were you having your own battles with your health? Tell us.
Oh, for sure, I was. It was back in 2017. And I'd been suffering for months with this severe sore throat. And I ended up in the emergency department a week before Christmas with a doctor telling me that he highly suspected that I had throat cancer. And I had to wait all over the Christmas period and the New Year until I saw a specialist to be told it wasn't that. Now, I had it in my head. I wasn't, I don't think so. That was, he was quite convincing. And in between that period, I was like, I need to find why I keep getting these recurrent sore throats, and it's stressful time of year, Christmas anyway, but I'd had to build up to all of that. And I came across magnesium as a mineral and how that affects metabolism and energy. And I was pretty exhausted. And I found the Magnesium Advocacy Group on Facebook. And then I found the old website, mag.org, and read. I think I must have read over that Christmas period nearly every iron toxicity post that Morley had ever written at that point. Then I saw a specialist and was told you don't have that diagnosis whatsoever. I think you're just stressed. So then it made even more sense with everything that I'd been reading. And I did the blood test, I did the blood work and ordered myself, just off the bat, trying to research for myself, a HTMA. My magnesium at that time was less than half of what it should have been, like just above, barely scraping 3 over here in the UK on our measures. So I started the RCP, and literally within a month I felt like a different person. And then so that took me to probably around February, March time, and Morley was doing a new training group, way back group 4. I signed up and did the training. So I was like, I want to understand why this is happening, what's happening, how all these minerals are affecting my body. And I loved the training. So, and I just continued. I slowly implemented the RCP, probably a bit faster than I'd recommend a client do it now, because I just wanted to get well yesterday. But I didn't have any adverse effects. I was fine with it all. And then I carried on with the training, carried on implementing all of the RCP, had a couple of little stumbling blocks with sulfation issues and things like that. Overcame all of that in the end. And what did I do? And then as a side effect, so it was for my throat. That was the reason. It was just like, I'm stressed and I just want to feel better. So as my energy increased, I just felt better in myself. Learning more, understanding the science behind it all fascinated me. Continued on, and I'd had at the time psoriasis from when I was 16, so well over 35 years. And I was noticing that was improving as the first year implementing the RCP. So by the end of the first year, I had no signs of psoriasis.
Wow.
And I'd had that for I think it was about 38 years, and nothing had worked. And I'd tried every intervention. So that was amazing. I'd also, over the years, I've diagnosed with PLE. So that's a polymorphic light eruption. So if I'd go out into the sun.
What was that?
PLE, polymorphic light eruption. So if you go out into the sunshine, I'd come up in blisters and allergies, rashes, like hives. Histamine response, horrendous. That all disappeared.
Wow.
And I've lived abroad a lot, and all those years of stress and what that did to me. I'd had some gut issues as well and bile issues, and all of that improved once I took on some EFT. And I was quite resistant to EFT. I was like, I don't need any therapy. But I tried it because I thought, well, you know, if you can't knock something you haven't tried. And honestly, 100-fold, everything improved even more.
And so can you speak into your experience there with the EFT? I think that's really interesting, and it's not something that that anyone in these interviews has actually mentioned yet, but it's such it's such an important component, and it really is. It's written in there as something that well, certainly it's one modality, and there's many, but one modality that as RCPCs would, you know, we would suggest to our clients. Sometimes with a lot of a resistance. A lot of people have never even heard of EFT, and I have to admit, very similar to you, I hadn't heard of it, and then I found myself very resistant to it until I really had to go away and understand it. So yeah, I mean, tell us more about the EFT, your personal experience, and how you think it works in so nicely with the protocol.
I think we put on, I mean, a lot of it's a protector. But for me, I was struggling with weight at the time. And literally after 3 sessions of EFT, all of my weight just dropped off. No change, no diet, no dieting, no extra exercising. It was just a layer of protection that my body was putting on me, keeping me safe, really. So letting go of the fears and past stressors that I didn't even realize were affected. Things that affected us as children will show up later on in life, and we have no idea about that and how it stays with us. Yes. So letting go of the past, and now I look at, you know, everything that's happened throughout my lifetime, and they're all a learning experience. And I wouldn't be where I am now if I hadn't have had them. So I'm thankful for them. This is part of my journey. Whereas before I could have been quite resentful about things that happened. And now it's just like, it was a gift of life, really. And it happens. Yeah. We have to, cope. Yeah. And it's a coping mechanism. And we put it in our heads, and we put a box on that lid and shut the lid. But it just kind of, it's still there sometimes, popping open. And so clearing all of that is amazing. Amazing.
Absolutely.
And it's not something I would have ever done.
No.
So I think it's integral.
It's it's just part of that, making your body feel safe enough for you, and in the case of your weight, I guess, to, you know, your body is safe enough to let go of that weight, and it can be quite amazing, and those emotional blocks can really be a big block for people to heal, can't they? And more about that, you know, that a lot, food sensitivities and emotional trauma and baggage, because we all have trauma, whether we know it or not. We tend to think of trauma as, you know, as one thing, and it's really just the culmination of our experiences of life, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, for sure.
And so EFT is so helpful. I'm really glad you've mentioned that, because it's you know, it's not something anyone's really spoken about, but it is such a vital part of the.
You have to find the right practitioner. I mean, I had to speak to a few, and it was you have to be very comfortable with who you're talking with. And I don't think I wouldn't have had some of the realizations if I'd just gone off and done it by myself. You can use tapping apps and things, and they can be helpful on daily occurrences if you feel a bit, you know, you're feeling a bit stressed or some anxiety or tension. But to get to the deeper issues, and not everybody has them, but they're there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's important to mention. It's it's something that, yes, you can go off and find some great, you know, resources online. And I think we've probably all done that to support ourselves in the interim as well. But there's nothing really like working with a practitioner, particularly for really being able to go deep enough and let go enough. So yeah, so thank you for mentioning that. So you know, that's some pretty profound healing that you've done, right? You know,
in a short period of time.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
amazing.
In 2018, you made the decision to come to the Institute and actually formally become an RCPC. So tell us about how you came to that decision and your experience there.
I wanted to understand the why of everything. And at the time, the new website wasn't as it is now, with all of the extra phenomenal information and the videos that we can watch about all of the aspects of the RCP. So I really wanted to understand the why and the mechanism, just curiosity. And I've always had a fascination with that, because I've always worked with bodies, massage therapists and holistic stuff in the past, and plants. So yeah, it was the science behind it all, really. And I wanted to meet Morley, so I did the training in group 4, and then I redid it again in group 7, because it's forever changing. It's always new. Morley's always learning, and then he passes that on to us. You know, we keep up to date with everything that's occurring. So I flew to Detroit. I went to Detroit and met everybody out there. And it's a refresher, and it keeps you updated with everything.
Yeah.
So that was amazing. That was a lovely trip. Yeah, and just curiosity.
Yeah.
Curiosity, because it's just so simple. You just want to take a few pills and feel better. But actually, no, there's a lot more to it than that, and what the body's lacking, and, you know, understanding HTMAs and interpreting blood work, and and everybody's story is different. And you know, we might all have a low magnesium, but we'll all express a different symptom.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, you know, so it's a mechanism of science of the body as well, and how it works. So yeah, I never stop learning about that. I love it. And now I'm helping with tutoring. So so that's amazing.
Yeah. So
quite a journey, actually.
Sorry.
It's been quite a journey.
Yeah, you have had a journey, and you know, it's sort of like it's nice to hear that a little bit come full circle with you back in as a tutor now, and actually helping other people, you know, in that way, as well as you know, obviously helping people as an RCPC as well, but being able to actually come back in and be a part of the learning and you know, those realizations for other people. What's that like? Are you enjoying your role there as a tutor?
Yeah, I love it. It was a little bit scary to start with, because I'm not a tutor. I've always been a pupil. But if you understand the science, which you do, you know, I've done it 3 times now, the training. So yeah, if I haven't got the gist of it by now, I never would. And it's really lovely to hear people's stories of, they're all different: curiosity, healing, self, to help others. You know, people all come to the RCP training for different reasons. Some might want a career out of it. Some are just purely for family, just to help themselves even. That's how I started. So it's really sent me on a different path. And I've gone on to study further. So I did nutrition. Morley did nutrition. I thought, well, yeah, if Morley's done nutrition, I found a college in the UK that was very in line. They talked about all of the RCP science. So it joined in with the RCP. If they'd have told me, you know, at the time it was during COVID, so if vitamin D was a big supplement to take for people, and in my training it was like, no, we don't want to take vitamin D like that. We'll get it another way.
Yeah.
So it all tallied in. It all tallied in, that and homeopathy. So yeah, it's been great, and it all fits together.
Absolutely.
So, Yeah.
And so back to your experience, your own experience, actually taking the course. How did you find? I mean, obviously you were already, down in the weeds a bit and researching for yourself, and so it wasn't as if you had kind of no knowledge about the body. But how did you find just the amount of information that Morley laid out each week?
Oh, when we started, Group 4 is very different to how it is today. So we had weekly lessons with Morley, weekly lessons with Morley. Now it's all on video, and we have live lessons to discuss everything that's been recorded. So I think the training has come on a long way.
Yeah,
it was great. It was still enough. In Group 4, it was enough. It was overwhelming at some points, but now I think it's easier to understand, and we've got it recorded, so we can always go back and watch it. You never lose your ability to rediscover. Every time you listen to a podcast or a talk or one of the tutor sessions, or one of the live classes or one of the live recordings, you'll always pick up something new. Always.
And that's, that's one of the bonuses now, isn't it? That there's so much pre-recorded there for you that you have access to forever and a day. And I even know from going back to do Group 14 myself, I'm actually still delving back into those lessons at times when I think I just need a little bit more of an understanding around, this concept. I'll kind of go and have a look through the lessons and see where we were talking about that. And you're right in saying every time you go back in, you take something else out of it, because it scaffolds, doesn't it? So, and it takes time just to acclimate and just to get all that information bedded down.
And your minerals, you need your minerals in place to retain it all.
That's right. And once the brain fog is lifted, we're all, and our IQ jumps up 10 points, we're all much more capable.
And I think that's why I redid it, because I just wasn't, I was just implementing it the first time I did it, just started. So it's funny.
The other thing that I wanted to ask you about, because we had chatted about this before, was you talked a little bit about stress and the stress of your life now and your circumstances, and just how you're able to handle that stress in probably a different way than you would have all those years ago. So can you share as much as you'd like to about how you are, what you mean by being able to handle the stress better?
Ability to cope, tenfold increase, if not more, 100-fold. What, you just want to draw the curtains on the world and go, enough is enough. Well, now it's like the curtains are open and it's like, bring it on, I can cope. And I think it's just a strength, a resolve, an ability. And also with the EFT, your ability to handle and understand. And stress happens to everybody, but we all cope in different ways. And we all need to take a break. I have to take a back seat sometimes, have a break. But whereas I'd say before the RCP, that the level of stress, like for the last 2 years, for an example, I was at the beginning of all of that, I'm like, this carries on. We're going to see a lot of poorly people in a few years, because this level of stress is just going to deplete their minerals and the symptoms will appear. And sure enough, that's what's happened. I think the RCP, once you've got your minerals, once you understand how the body works, your ability to cope with a lot more. I can take on a lot more now than I could have 4 or 5 years ago, and cope with a lot more. And life happens, it's like, if you think, I'm doing the RCP, I should never get sick. No, the body needs to detox still. We still have environmental stresses, environmental toxins, emotions. It all happens. It's all happening for us all of the time. But our ability to manage and cope with all of that strengthens, I think, a lot with the RCP, or it has for me.
Yeah, and you know, I would agree with you for myself as well. My ability, you know, the stresses are never going to go away, you know, but our ability just to metabolize that stress and deal with it and come through the other side, I think, yeah, that's what's been the most profound for me about the whole experience of EFT and the RCP together,
Yeah.
has just been that ability to do that. So
And
that's
to
come
be
in
able to
really
rush.
handy in the last couple of years.
Yeah, handy. And the ability to rationalize things and, you know, and cope with the brain, just even the brain and the good fats and the good, you know, some of the nutrients that we take in. It's all needed. Copeability.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess my last question, really, well, my second last question actually, is what is your hope to do with, you know, all this information that you've learned around the RCP? You've done some further studyings. What are you hoping to do, or what are you doing with that professionally now?
Now I'm helping out with tutoring with the I've just finished with just about to finish. It's been a lovely experience with group 15, and I'll be going into group 16. And I think I've got some personal stuff that's going on in my life, but once that's all resolved and out of the way, I'll be back consulting more. I love working with people and using everything else that I've learned over the last couple of years, which is all incorporates really nicely with the RCP. That's where I'm headed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, when you've walked your own path with illness and your own health issues, you know, that brings about, and that's where a lot of us begin. That's why we are here doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
You know, it brings that sense of empathy and understanding to your practice as well, to be able to help others. So
yeah. And when you've healed things that conventional medicine is like, there's no cure, and I'm like, but there has to be, because I wasn't born with it. I've developed it, so I can undevelop it. And sure enough, you know, quite some severe stuff. So yeah, the body's amazing. The body's got an innate intelligence, and we just need to tap into that.
We just need to tap into that. So well said. So my last question, Laura, is if you just had to describe in, you know, a couple of sentences how the RCP has changed your life or the trajectory of your life, what would you say?
Oh, it's turned it around 150 degrees. For the better. Honestly, I'm so thankful. I don't even know how I stumbled across. I just stumbled across it a few years ago, and I'm thankful, because I wouldn't be where I am now. Life changing. Life is changing for everybody at the moment. We're going into a complete lifestyle of, you know, what's gone on. But yeah, for the better. So to come out of all of that, feeling positive, and in a happy and a good direction, and to help others, amazing, great.
Yeah. And I'm sure you'll go on to have your own ripple effect in your, you know, your own community and your own health practice in future. So good luck with that, Laura. And thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. And you know, it's always nice to hear, I think, people's own personal journeys, you know, through and how it's helped them. And hopefully it'll help somebody else just by hearing this. So thank you very much.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Nice talking with you. Thanks, Amy.
Thanks.